When you talk about liability, what we ultimately talk about is a CE label, and the CE label was basically introduced, if you like, with the AI Act, with 2021. There was the first Commission proposal in this direction, followed by the AI Liability Directive, which is on hold, as we hold from Jordan, which might be turned into software liability directive. And we have the famous Cyber Resilience Act that everyone is talking about, and close to it, the Product Liability Directive. And all of these three files, basically what they do is to introduce a CE label, which you might know from like hardware tools, products you have, these label now should be also printed on software, so to say. So this is basically what's happening. And this is what we debated for the last 3 years, and now finally we brought out these files to an end. I mean, we are just waiting for the final signature in the Cyber Resilience Act and to be released officially in the journal. But basically, it's there. The text is final, what happened in particular the Cyber Resilience Act, but also in the other files, is that the European Commission, the EU, tried to come up with a horizontal approach. So, and this means basically everything should be regulated. So they wanted to start to like regulate a train. They want to regulate startups. They also want to regulate a phone as well as the app. And also software should be regulated, right? So, and this means the Cyber Resilience Act is not only a software law, and it's also not an open source law. So, and that's very important to know, even if the debate about the Cyber Resilience Act and all of these files had been a lot around open source, they are not initially planned to be open source legislation or something like this, right? However, since we debated all of these files, and also together we figured out that there is something with open source, and it's not so easy to regulate as it sounds. The initial proposals have been around the commercial activity, as we heard, but that's the question, what is this? So, and also if you look at software in general, we see that there are some like general issues other than what you have if you buy a physical product. So normally you have a physical product and it is what it is, and it stays what it is. With software, we do updates, we do upgrades, we have constant releases, right? So, and the question is, so shall we, for every line of code we change, shall we do a new CE label for this? Shall we have a new procedure for this? I guess no. So, these have been questions. So the answer to this was then substantial modification. I mean, the lawyers in the room will maybe be able to tell us what a substantial modification is, but it's rather upgrade than an update, I'd say. But you see there are a couple of questions that arise in the debate also around vulnerability disclosures. We heard it also 20 minutes ago, that there are some issues around here. And we also have seen that there is a very, very huge difference between proprietary and free software. So, and that's then what we debated for a very, 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 very long time. And very honestly also not fully finished with this, but this comes later. And free software with the 4 freedoms: use, study, share, and improve, right? We have many communities, we have individual developers, we have people build on code that end up somehow in a product. We know cases like Log4j, so should these 2 people coding Log4j now should be liable for people that use it as a commercial activity and stuff like this. So we debated this for a very long time. And came to the conclusion that we need an exemption somehow, but we also do not want to have a full exemption, right? So, I mean, in the beginning, it was clear that some industry players wanted to have a full exemption, and they were also, like, in general, against the concept of liability at all. However, I think it was clear that there's no room to compromise on this general idea, so it was clear that we go ahead with this idea. However, we understood that we want to modify it. We have to say the European Commission, in particular in the Cyber Resilience Act, already came up with an exemption by themselves to exclude open source. And they said, we want to have an exemption for open source in this CE label marking when you are outside of a commercial activity, right? So, and this is what we debated for the whole time, what's a commercial activity when we talk about open source, right? Is it, for example, if you buy me a coffee, if you get a donation, if you earn a single euro with this, you have to do the same CE label procedure than, let's say, Red Hat, for example? Adopt. So we continued to discuss this question and came to the conclusion, okay, we need dedicated rules for free software, and it won't be sufficient to continue with this one sentence, the commercial activity, but we have to go into the details what this commercial activity then is. So first, we all know that there is a clause on no liability in free software licenses. And this is in particular true for individual developers, and it's there for them, right? So, I mean, there's no fifth freedom on no liability. However, if you are an individual developer, if you write code, release it to the world, and you don't have any, you're just giving, basically, right? Then it should be clear that you can't be liable if then, for example, a big company, big tech is coming and using your code for something. So that's why we came up with basically an idea and statement that says, look, if you significantly financially benefit with this software, then you should be also in the focus, and you should be the one making sure that there's a CE label. So, and this is basically, so the idea of this supply chain is that we don't end up with going to the individual developers telling them, look, now we are using your product, now you need to make sure that it's EU CE compliant. No, it's the other way around. So you are the big company, you are using code from these two developers, so to say, and then you need to make sure that there's a CE label and not the other way around. So this is what we try to fight for. This is what we try to lobby for. And ultimately, this ended in the concept, in the idea to come up with basically two roles. One could say maybe three, but let's focus on these two. And they say they are manufacturers and they are stewards out there. And this means, first of all, we managed to get a full exemption for individual developers, right? So whenever you are writing code and doing this, to give it to the world, you do this for fun, for whatever reason you are doing this, you are out, you don't have to comply with the CRA. So this is for sure. And then we have something like the FSFE, which is a charity. We have foundations out there. We have communities that don't even have a legal status sometimes. And all of them, they are in the steward pocket, and they basically need to comply with the CRA if they consider themselves as a steward. And there's the manufacturer. I think that's the clearest role. Let's say this is something like Microsoft, Red Hat, something like this. And but it's also clear that they have to work together somehow, right? So it's very rarely happening that you do a free software project where you code everything by your own from scratch, and there's not a single line of code in this project from someone else. So that's why it's very, very likely that if you are a manufacturer, you will also have to collaborate at one point with the steward and the other way around. So basically, a foundation needs to work together with Red Hat, so to say, to give you an example. So, and the thing is, the manufacturers, they definitely need to comply, right? So they need to put the CE label on the software, and the stewards should kind of like help them to get there. And and this is basically what we still need to define in the next 2 years is like, how is the relationship between these two entities organized, right? So you can do it in a way that the manufacturer go to the steward and say, proceed. It's unlikely that there will be a successful result. Or it's the other way around, that we empower the stewards and that we make it a nice and shiny thing for the stewards to become a steward and to do this. And for this, we need I do believe, the help of the manufacturers to support the stewards to come up with this and to help to make basically Europe more, and by that also the world, more cybersecure. And So how does implementation look like? So I mean, we are about or we already have a new parliament, and we are also about to have a new commissioner for tax sovereignty. And this is Henna Wirkun. She was also shadow rapporteur for the CRA, so she's very, very familiar with the topic of the Cyber Resilience Act. And she just recently said, or she's about to say, in the hearings happening on Tuesday, that she wants to focus in the implementation, so what is happening now and for the next 2 years, enforcement of NIS2 and product, so the product security, which she combines with the Cyber Resilience Act. That's already kind of interesting. So for her, product liability directive, AI, everything seems to be around the Cyber Resilience Act. However, in an innovation and business-friendly way. I think that's important to know. So the Commission or the Commissioner designate, Henna Wirkung, seems to fight for a business-friendly way. I'd say we are rather fighting for community and open source community and consumer protection friendly way, but we can definitely see in which direction the new Commission is about to go. And we also know that Henna was not around the MEPs in the Parliament that tabled very nice amendments for open source. Basically, she never talked about open source at all when she was in the Parliament. And so I think from the Commission perspective, I mean, we need to see what she's going to do with all of this, but I think this quote already gives us some impression where we need to work on in the next two years. However, it's also that it's not the Commission implementing anything at the moment. So the Commission, basically one could say, got a new role like a normal stakeholder in this debate. It's member states implementing. It's we have heard of ENISA, so market surveillance authorities. They will be very, very important because they are the ones basically looking at all of this. They are the ones reading the CRA, how they want to read that, coming up with rules, looking at the market, checking the market, and then coming up with fines. And so you want to be in touch with market surveillance authorities, I think, if you want to implement. And they will be the ones that help you out, or in. However, what we are doing in the next 2 years in this implementation phase is that we, as FSFE, most of the time we'll look at the relationship between stewards and manufacturers. So that's definitely in the key of our activities, so that we make sure that these stewards, so charities, foundations, so people alike, that they are protected, so that they do not are basically forced to come up with workflows that they can't do. And for this, we work together with, obviously, key stakeholders, decision makers. Key stakeholders in this asset, for example, is market surveillance authorities, so completely new players that haven't been around. Also, there are many consultancies at the moment entering the party. It's also very interesting to see what they are doing and what they want in this game. So it's even if we have the law, look at it, it's nice, but now in the next years we are doing the CRA. So be around if you are affected, and try to get attached to one of these groups that are in basically your pocket. So if you feel like a steward, maybe you want to talk to us. If you rather feel like a manufacturer, you might want to talk to the Linux Foundation. So it's depending on what you are doing, you might find a group of people that help you. And 30 seconds left, I'm not sure. Shall we try to go for a question then?
Let's see, thank you, Alexander. Let's see if there is a question from the floor. Yes, over there. Let's wait for the mic to come. It's here in the first row, and we will take your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your interesting presentation. What if software is infecting a lot hardware? I was just thinking, let's say autonomous driving car. So what will happen then with the certification and the allowance?
As said, it's a horizontal approach. So it's basically like a train. So you have to, the final product, so to say, this needs a CE label.
Okay.